Hey y'all, it's Natalie for Cherry on Top Crafts today, and it is time for Technique Tuesday, and this month we are focused on foiling. So that was the Spectrum Gardenia collection by 49 and Market, and I just showed you the rainbow foil, which is from Spellbinders, and I'm going to be using the Spellbinders Glimmer machine to apply foil today. But I'm not going to be using only foil plates. I'm going to be using my regular old dies. So I suggest any type of die that you have where you have two pieces of it, where you can cut the inside and then cut the outside, like a background for it or something. Those are the ones that work the best. So I have these florals. These are very old from my stash, but I'll try to find some links to some that are still in the store right now. But any type of die like this is the best to use for this technique. But yes, you can use your dies to foil things so that you don't only have to have foil plates. So I have cut down some cardstock to fit just a couple of the dies, and now I'm going to cut my Glimmer foil, and that little tool right there is actually a cutting board for cutting foil, and you just use that little knife thing right there. But you can also use scissors too. But this gorgeous rainbow foil I thought would go really well with the 49 and Market Spectrum Gardenia collection. So I'm going to foil some pieces, and then we're going to combine them with the collection to make a layout. So I'm going to lay my dies, the cut side up, onto the Glimmer plate. And I guess honestly you could probably do cut side down as well, and you would get the back side of the image. But then I guess you wouldn't be able to use the outline die. It would be backwards. But you could fussy cut them. So I covered those with the paper, and then I put the shims on, and then I run it through my Sizzix Big Shot. Now, make sure not to put any additional shim because you don't want your dies to cut, right? You only want it to press against the foil. So, but it's loose enough that as long as you don't put any additional shims in there, it should press against the foil nicely without actually attempting to cut the dies. But your cut side is up so that you don't accidentally ruin your plate, just in case you do have a little too much pressure. So look how good that looks. It's very fine and delicate, but it's gorgeous, and it did not cut through the paper. So I'm also going to foil the reverse image later because I found that I can't just like set the foil aside and save it. It gets wrinkled up, it gets kind of ruined. So I definitely, as I'm foiling, also try to use my solid foil plate that I have from Pink Fresh Studio in order to get the most out of all the foil that I use. And since I already have my Glimmer machine warmed up and everything. So doing the same technique with those other two floral dies as well. And laying my paper across the top. I'm just making sure that I'm covering up all the die so that it's not running off the paper. And then I set my shims on, and then I hit the timer button just to make sure that it's nice and hot before I run it through the Sizzix. So I run it through both sides, and same thing happens. Now on this one, I did get a little bit of a double print. I think it jostled around probably. So maybe you might want to use some tape. I know Altenew has some of that purple tape, I think, in the store. So might be something when you actually end up using it, since it's a grungy, distressed look that I go for anyway. So those butterflies are from my stash as well. So they had two kind of imprints, and then they have a butterfly that cuts the outline out. So that was another type of die that I owned already that is like perfect to use with your foiling machine. So this really helps you stretch your Glimmer foiling machine or whatever heat foil machine that you have, so that you don't only have to use it with the hot foil plates, which are the copper ones. And that worked so beautifully. I love the way that looks. So now all I have to do is die cut it with the outline of the butterfly. Or again, you could fussy cut it. So now I'm heating up my solid foil plate that is from Pink Fresh Studio so that I could do the reverse images. And while it heats up, I'm going to use the outline dies to cut out the foiled images off of the white cardstock that I just pressed. And there it is, super gorgeous. I love it, and it's gonna look so good with that Spectrum Gardenia collection. So you can see I kind of like hodgepodged it, right? Because some foil was sticking out that I didn't have like an extra little piece of paper. Well, I didn't want to leave it off just sticking out because it would stick to my shim that I put on top. And it does happen a couple times. And you can see like that little blue grid that I have going on my shim. That's from where some foil wasn't properly covered by cardstock. But again, that doesn't really bother me, you know. It's just part of the foiling process, honestly. So there I have die cut all of the pieces. I have the rainbow on white, and then the opposite, the rainbow foil, and then the white outline. And then I have the butterflies as well. So I'm going to pull out the Spectrum Gardenia by 49 and mark it and kind of pick out which pieces that I would like to use. I picked out 2 different rainbow background papers to decide from. So I have these 3 photos of me and my boys on Mother's Day. So I'm seeing if I'd like to use this one, but I figure once I put all of the foliage and all the die cuts on it, it would kind of cover up most of that background. So I decided to go with this one where the design is at the top, and then I'm going to put my florals and everything at the bottom, kind of layered up behind my photos. And I'm loving how that looks. I actually am going to combine the foiled pieces with the laser cut foliage pieces. So I end up not using the full color foiled pieces. I only use the white foiled pieces. You'll see what I mean here in a minute, but I'm just kind of pulling out the items that I'm going to use. And I pulled out this one 6x8 piece, and I'm going to use the black and white stripe to back all of my photos because I really like the, the juxtaposition between the black and white and the rainbow. So that's what I'm doing here, is just backing the photos with that black and white stripe. And then I'm going to use that piece, I decided, as the title. It's going to house the title in between the 2 photos. I'm going to use some rub-ons and some stamps to make that title. So I pulled out those stamps, so I end up using a different set, but I'm just kind of seeing how I want to arrange everything on the page. And I fussy cut that piece. So I really love the 49th and Market collections. They really make sure to utilize all the pieces. So the packaging, the backside of the packaging is a cut apart sheet, which I really appreciate, that it's not wasted and you can use it. So that's going to kind of sit there between the photos and house the title. So I'm going to use this 6x8 rub-on sheet to be part of my title. And I think it says the very best. Yeah. And then I'm going to stamp the word Sons. I thought I was going to use this when I get out all the stamps, but I changed my mind. Okay, so I decided that I wanted to do a little something to make the background paper exciting. So I take my X-Acto knife, which I need a new blade for, but I am cutting around just a few of the butterfly wings at the top. Mostly I chose just kind of one in each color, and then one that was a complete wing so that I could cut out at least one side of a complete wing. And I'm going to lift those up and just add a dimensional element to my page. Because I'll have dimensional elements at the bottom when I add on the die cuts and the laser cut images from the collection. And so, because I'll always lift those up, I never fully stick them down because I like to lift them up and give dimension. So I thought that would be a fun way to continue that dimension with the top of the page and that beautiful collage butterfly rainbow nest that is at the top of the page. And I'm certain that they will stick all of the links down below to the Spectrum Gardenia collection, as well as the Spellbinders Glimmer machine. If you've been looking into foiling and considering it, I highly suggest it, especially now if you can see how to use dies that you already have in your stash in addition to the hot foil plates. There's just a lot of possibilities. Super fun. So I have got a few of the butterfly wings at the top all popped up. And I'm going to back those with the same black and white stripe that I used on the photos. So that when you pull them up, you'll be able to see that little pop of black and white, as well as, you know, you won't be able to see the back side of the layout that's in the page protector on the opposite side of it. I was seeing if the stripes went in any particular direction, but they're actually all over the place. So I decided that doesn't matter. And so I just start cutting them and sticking them behind the little popped up pieces. And the backside of that paper is almost really similar to the backside of the large 12 by 12 paper that I'm using. So it kind of blends in. So there you can kind of see where you can see the black and white stripe when you pop up the wings. I almost called them leaves. They are like leaves, right? Isn't that the point? Camouflage. So next up, I'm going to get a little finger dauber and I'm going to use some black ink and I'm just going to ink up the edges of the wings that are stuck up so that it just kind of like helps them pop out off the page and just gives them some interest, because I'm going to do that same technique all over all the die cuts that I decide to use on today's layout. I'm going to rough up the edges of the stripe paper that I'm using around the photos and then ink those up as well. And I set them aside because I don't want to get the black ink on my white background paper. So I want to make sure it dries first before I stick it down. Learn my lesson in the last video, if anybody watched that. Now I'm going to work on my title. So I'm just stamping the word suns. And so this piece is going to say the best suns. And then I did go into my stash and pulled out like a little green label because you'll see that I kind of color block, and I put down where the photos are going to kind of match the rainbow that's across the top. And so where the subtitle is going to be in the green section. So I pulled out a green label, and so the whole title is going to say the best suns made me mommy, because they both do still call me mommy. And I am going to be sad on the day when that is no longer the case. I'll take it as long as I can. And it just really worked out that the word the very best was in pink, because it's kind of close to the pink section at the top. Although I don't think that would have deterred me. I would just go with it. So those floral dies are super big. So I did cut them in half so they can stick out on either side of the photo. But I'm just going to use that same inking technique to ink up around the edges of it to help it stand off of the background and give it that nice layering dimension. And there you can see I pulled out the laser cut foliage pieces, and so I matched the red one underneath the red section of butterflies, and I'll do the same with the pink there, kind of like. So still layering up and color blocking. Those laser cut florals are super gorgeous, or these are the foliage pieces actually, and they're a little delicate, but if you pull them apart, you can just glue them back together and no one will ever know, because they don't have any white border. That's the beauty of the laser cut part of it, and they're super gorgeous. So let's see, just pulling out another of the foiled die cuts to add as a layering piece behind the photos. And this layout ends up being pretty busy. It's just so beautiful, though. I want to use all the pieces of the collection by Spectrum, by 49 Market, the Spectrum Gardenia collection. So it's just really hard to not just keep adding and adding and adding. But busy is kind of my jam. I'm cool with it. But you definitely could leave out a few of the pieces if you wanted to tone it down a little bit, if you don't like adding all the things to your layouts. You could do just the foil pieces. That could have worked. So I went off screen and I kind of popped up all of the photos and the title piece on some foam tape, because I did want some dimension and I want the layering pieces behind it to kind of be on a different level. Of course, I ran out of tape in my tape gun as soon as I turned the camera back on, because that's how it goes. I also pulled out a few of the laser cut butterflies from the collection as well. And I was just cutting off a little bit of the foam tape so I can layer those two photos together and kind of like overlap one on top of the other without making the dimension kind of go downhill or anything with 2 layers of foam. And I've already stuck down the foiled pieces onto the background once I figured out exactly where I wanted my photos to be. And next I will layer up the laser cut pieces. And we're coming to the end of the layout. This was kind of a long video, sorry about that, but there's the other piece. I used some tiny little stamps from my stash to type out those, but you could also type or you could handwrite it. But it's the very best sons made make me mommy, because I am mommy still, not maid in the past. And let's see, I think we're about to call it a layout, so I hope you've enjoyed it. Check out the links down below. You can also find it on the blog and in the gallery, and let me know if you have any questions. You can follow me online on Instagram at Delightfully Crafty, but I also have a YouTube channel here too. If you like this, you can see more like it on my channel. So that is just some black acrylic paint. I've covered all of our faces with some Post-it notes, and now I'm just going to splatter. I watered it down, and I'm going to splatter it just to add a little bit more of the black on the layout, kind of add to the grungy feel. The background paper already had floral or colorful splatters, so I just wanted to add a few black ones. And I'm very carefully removing the Post-its so that they don't get any black paint on our faces, and we're going to call it a layout. So thank you guys so much for watching today. Check out the links down below for a cherry on top crafts. Bye y'all.